Welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. I'm Heavy D and I'm going to tell you a story. First, we're going to read the Bible, and then we're going to do a synopsis, and then we're going to tell a story. We're reading Pilgrim's Progress. This is going to be chapter 20 of the Pilgrim's Progress. So if you're just tuning in for the very, 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 very first time, then I recommend you start with chapter 1 so you can get your bearings and figure out what we're reading about. Otherwise, you can just listen along and open up your Bible, because that's where we're starting, to Exodus chapter 21. This is the English Standard Version. Let me begin. Now these are the rules that you shall set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him to God, and he shall bring him to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall be his slave forever. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has broken faith with her. If he designates her for his son, he shall deal with her as with a daughter. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, or her marital rights, and if he does not do these things for her, she shall go out for nothing without payment of money. Excuse me. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies shall be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place to which he may flee. But if a man willfully attacks another to kill him by cunning, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. Whoever strikes his father and mother shall be put to death. Whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in possession of him, shall be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother shall be put to death. When men quarrel, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and the man does not die but takes to his bed, then if the man rises again and walks outdoors with his staff, he who struck him shall be clear, only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall have him thoroughly healed. When a man strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. But if the slave survives a day or two, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go free because of his eye. If he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go free because of his tooth. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall not be liable. But if the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has been warned but has not kept in it, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. If a ransom is imposed on him, then he shall give for the redemption of his life whatever is imposed on him. If it gores a man's son or daughter, he shall be dealt with according to this same rule. If the ox gores a slave, male or female, the owner shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be restored. When a man opens a pit, or when a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restoration. He shall give money to its owner, and the dead beast shall be his. When one man's ox butts another so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and share its price, and the dead beast also they shall share. Or if it is known that the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has not kept it in, he shall repay ox for ox, and the dead beast shall be his. And that is the end of 21. I know this is seems a little tedious, but it is very interesting to note some of the punishments for the particular crimes in the Israelite community. So, for example, whoever strikes his father or mother shall be put to death. Whoever curses his father or mother shall be put to death. I bet that looming rule or punishment kept children from being disobedient too often. All right. Ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty. So Mom is making some pretty while we're reading. All right. So now we're on chapter 20 of the Pilgrim's Progress. Like I said before, in chapter 19, basically, Christian and Faithful, they met each other and basically compared notes on the adventures they've been having as they pass through the wicket gate and are going to the eternal city, etc., etc. I could go into a lengthy discussion of what they talked about, but if you really want to know, then go back and watch the last video, because that one went into quite length of what is going on. So let's go ahead and delve right into chapter 20. This one is called Discontent and Shame. Discontent and Shame, chapter 20. Faithful. Yes, I met with one discontent who would willingly have persuaded me to go back again with him. His reason was for that the valley was altogether without honor. He told me, moreover, that to go there was the way to disoblige all my friends, as pride, arrogancy, self-conceit, worldly glory with others who he knew, as he said, would be very much offended if I made such a fool of myself as to wade through this valley. Christian. Well, and how did you answer him? Faithful. I told him that although all these that he named might claim a kindred of me, and that rightly, for indeed they were my relations according to the flesh, yet since I became a pilgrim they have disowned me, and I also have rejected them, and therefore they were to me now no more than if they had never been of my lineage. I told him, moreover, that as to this valley he had quite misrepresented the thing, for before honor is humility, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Therefore, said I had rather go through this valley to the honor that was so accounted for the wisest, than choose that which he esteemed most worthy of our affections. Christian. Met you with nothing else in that valley? Faithful. Yes, I met with Shame, but of all the men that I met with on my pilgrimage, he, I think, bears the wrong name. The other would be said, nay, after a little argumentation, and somewhat else, but this bold-faced Shame would never have done. Christian. Why? What did he say to you? Faithful. What? Why, he objected against religion itself. He said it was a pitiful, low, sneaking business for a man to mind religion. He said that a tender conscience was an unmanly thing, and that for a man to watch over his words and ways, so as to tie up himself from that hectoring liberty that the brave spirits of the times accustom themselves unto, would make him the ridicule of the times. He objected also that but few of the mighty, rich, or wise were ever of my opinion, nor any of them neither, before they were persuaded to be fools, and to be of a voluntary fondness to venture the loss of all for nobody knows what. He moreover objected the base and low estate and condition of those that were chiefly the pilgrims of the times in which they lived, also their ignorance and want of understanding in all natural science. Yea, he did hold me to it at that rate also, about a great many more things than here I relate, as that it was a shame to sit whining and mourning under a sermon, and a shame to come sighing and groaning home, that it was a shame to ask my neighbor forgiveness for petty faults, or to make restitution where I have taken from any. He said also that religion made a man grow strange to the great, but because of a few vices, which he called by finer names, and made him own and respect the base because of the same religious fraternity. And is not this, said he, a shame? Christian. And what did you say to him? Faithful. Say, I could not tell what to say at first. Yea, he put me so to it that my blood came up in my face. Even this shame fetched it up, and had almost beat me quite off. But at last I began to consider that which is highly esteemed among men is had an abomination with God. And I thought again, this shame tells me what men are, but he tells me nothing what God or the word of God is. And I thought moreover that at the day of doom we shall not be doomed to death or life according to the hectoring spirits of the world, but according to the wisdom and law of the highest. Therefore, thought I, what God says is best is indeed best, though all the men in the world are against it. Seeing then that God prefers his religion, seeing God prefers a tender conscience, seeing they that make themselves fools for the kingdom of heaven are wisest, and that the poor man that loveth Christ is richer than the greatest man in the world that hates him. Shame, depart, thou art an enemy to my salvation. Shall I entertain thee against my sovereign Lord? How then shall I look him in the face at his coming? Should I now be ashamed of his ways and servants, how can I expect the blessing? But indeed this shame was a bold villain. I could scarcely shake him off my company. Yea, he would be haunting of me, and continually whispering me in the ear with some one or other of the infirmities that attend religion. But at last I told him that it was but in vain to attempt farther in this business, for these things that he disdained, in those did I see most glory. And so at last I got past this importunate one, and when I had shaken him off, then I began to sing. The trials that those men do meet withal, that are obedient to the heavenly call, are manifold and suited to the flesh, and come and come and come again afresh, that now or sometime else we by them may be taken, overcome, and cast away. O let the pilgrims then be vigilant and quit themselves like men. Christian. I am glad, my brother, that thou didst withstand this villain so bravely. For of all, as thou sayest, I think he has the wrong name. For he is so bold as to follow us in the streets, and to attempt to put us to shame before all men, that is, to make us ashamed of that which is good. But if he was not himself audacious, he would never attempt to do as he does. But let us still resist him, for notwithstanding all his bravadoes, he promoteth the fool, and none else. The wise shall inherit glory, said Solomon, but shame shall be the promotion of fools. Faithful. I think we must cry to him for help against shame, that would have us to be valiant for truth upon the earth. Christian. You say true, but did you meet nobody else in that valley? Faithful. No, not I, for I had sunshine all the rest of the way through that, and also through the valley of the shadow of death. Christian. 'Twas well for you. I am sure it fared far otherwise with me. I had for a long season, as soon almost as I entered into that valley, a dreadful combat with that foul fiend Apollyon. Yea, I thought verily he would have killed me, especially when he got me down and crushed me under him, as if he would have crushed me to pieces. For as he threw me, my sword flew out of my hand. Nay, he told me he was sure of me, but I cried to God, and he heard me, and delivered me out of all my troubles. Then I entered into the valley of the shadow of death, and had no light for almost half the way through it. I thought I should have been killed there over and over, but at last day brake, and the sun rose, and I went through that which was behind with far more ease and quiet. And that's the end of chapter 20. Chapter 21 is called Talkative, Christian, and Faithful, and we're going to read that one next time. So stay tuned, and we will get to that one just as soon as we have our next edition of Heavy D Storytelling. So I hope that you're enjoying the story, Pilgrim's Progress. It is progressing. He is now talking to Faithful, and they are Faithful's had some challenges, and Christian obviously had some challenges too, and so now we get to see how they're doing together. All right, so God bless you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again next time for Heavy D Storytelling. God bless.